It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hello again, Irish fans. Welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest Notre Dame sports podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 1990, and joining me today, Ed Jordanek from the class of 89 and Mike Brammer from the class of 1990 also. We're going to take about 20 minutes and look back on yesterday's win over NC State, but let's first start with a look further back on this date in Notre Dame history. A couple interesting games that happened on October 12th. In 1929, the Irish defeated Navy in Baltimore 14-7. That was the second of what became 19 wins in a row to finish Knute Rockne's career before he tragically died. 1946, the Irish beat Purdue 49-6. Another big winning streak there for the Irish. That was the third win in what became the school record 39-game unbeaten streak. And in 1957, Notre Dame defeated 10th-ranked Army 23-21. Now, that 57 team finished 7-3 and played 6 ranked teams, and maybe the greatest bounce-back team in Notre Dame history, because in 1956, of course, they were 2-8, the year Paul Hornung won the Heisman Trophy. You guys may know some of my family history, and that my dad was captain of that 57 team. And, of course, that's that photo over my shoulder the night before the Army game in 57 that we're talking about. That photo was taken. But maybe another great bounce-back team is the one we're looking at right now. So let's get into yesterday's 36-7 victory over NC State. The Irish start 0-2, 4 in a row, and things are looking good. So, guys, let's review our pick six keys to the game from Thursday's show, and let's talk about how that played out. Bram, you had said the Irish need to win on first down. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I big improvement for them, I thought. Still a couple minor hiccups, that penalty on first down and we went backwards. A couple other times we got stuffed on first down, but overall, I mean, I thought Carr was exceptionally good again, as usual. So I really was pretty happy with that.
Eddie, what'd you think?
Yeah, obviously they had a little trouble getting moving again. I think it probably would have been, 28-0 at halftime if they would have converted the first fourth down that they had, down by the goal line. It just would have created some momentum and maybe even broke NC State's spirit a little sooner. First down is interesting to me. I like Bram. Like there's concern there. Just too many negative plays. Too many stuffs. Again, we're nitpicking. We won 36-7, but
that's a good sign, though, right, Ed?
What's that?
I said that's a good sign that we're nitpicking a 36-7 win.
Exactly. But I think that this is what is good about being a Notre Dame fan these days is that the standard is much higher, right? We're thinking about
100%.
Bless you. We're thinking about the postseason. We're thinking about how we need to play to beat the teams in the upper tier, which really seem to me to be sort of two right now. One that we lost to barely, and one that we lost to in the national championship game. So I think that's a fair standard. And so I think we could be. So when we critique these games, I think it's okay to point out the flaws that aren't going to cut it if we have another big game this year.
Yeah, so Freeman in his post-game press conference said, "Hey, it wasn't perfect. That's true, and we are going to, nitpick a little bit, but I don't think first down is an area to nitpick. We averaged 9 yards a play on first down. Carr was 9-12 for 175 yards on first down. So, Bram, that was a good key to the game, and I think Notre Dame solved a lot of their first down problems. You really can't do much better than 9 yards.
Well, I think the point Ed's making is that there were several first downs where we didn't do anything. The average yards was because of some big plays on first down. But when you really look at the execution on first down, there were times we went backwards. You can't do that in the playoffs against Ohio State at the championship level. I'm just saying that's what he's nitpicking about.
What Graham and I are saying is that when we think about Notre Dame football in general, we don't think about throwing the ball 12 times on first down. Seriously, over the course.
No, I know you're right. So
let's not think about Notre Dame football. Let's think about what it takes to win.
Yeah, and take what they give you.
NC State was going to stop the run. I think NC State, it's hard to say. I don't really know, but it looked to me like they were going to stop the run, take away Faison, take away Malachi Fields, and we did a great job of finding those other things. So let's move on to the second key, which is expose their secondary, was our second key to the game. I think we did that. 342 yards for the air. CJ Carr has 2 300-plus yard games. Jack Cohn was the last quarterback to do that. And I love the fact that like Fields and Faison really weren't responsible for much of that.
No.
273 yards came from the tight end and the slot receiver. So we took what they gave us, and I'm okay if that's Notre Dame football.
Yeah, not only that, but we missed some calls that should have gone our way. I mean, you could have added to that with some of those calls that we didn't get. But yeah, overall, again, I think that's a perfect indication of where CJ Carr is at. I might even argue that in years past, this is the difference we're seeing. You got a guy like CJ Carr, which takes what they give you. If they're going to let you throw it downfield because that's where they're going to challenge us. Well, now we got a guy that can sling it. So for him to pack up as much yardage as he did, I mean, that's just another indicator of just what kind of level he's playing at right now at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I'm sort of stuck in the recent past a little bit, in the sense that we did not have those kinds of weapons or a quarterback who could make those throws on a consistent basis, right? So we had to get 4 or 5 yards on the ground on first down to be a successful team and to be a winning football team. So I
exactly.
agree. So I agree, Mike Sullivan. It's a new sort of facet of our offense that we're able to play that way and win that way, and the proof is in the result, right? So I'm with you. I don't care if we throw for 350 and run for 125 and win 36-7, or run for 250 and throw for 125 and win 36-7. The point is winning. But I still have sort of, some reservations about the ability of the offensive line to get some push, and watching, especially, we'll talk about short yardage, but especially watching USC last night, they're much improved on defense. They just are.
They are.
And so that's our next challenge, and we'll get to that later shows. But so that's still it's still a concern for me a little bit. Not again, first world problem, but
for sure,
I think it's an issue.
Okay, third key to the game was, Bram, you said, hey, we got to win on fourth down. The Irish were 1 of 3 on fourth down, and obviously that's an area that after a 36-7 game, we can nitpick because it's now becoming a problem. Bram, give me your thoughts on that.
It is a problem. It's one of those shake your head things where obviously the coaching staff's going to look at this and really try and figure this out. But boy, I'll tell you what, after going 0-2 and then going for it on fourth down on your own 38 and the score's 10-7, I mean, man, if that didn't turn out well, look out. But this is, I know you and I joked about this at the beginning of the season, but I told you that fourth down was going to be key, a metric for us this year, and you were laughing at me. I'm getting a little nervous, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a concern for me. There's something mental going on. They're just not executing, and that's a real problem when you got a gunslinger like Marcus Freeman that likes to do what he does, which is great. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're playing Notre Dame, guess what? You got to spend a lot of time on special teams.
Well, of course, the only fourth down conversion we had was, on the fourth down when the punt team came out. And, that's less of a fake punt as much as it's a quarterback counter that we ran with Tyler Buckner. And that was great execution there, right? That was awesome. But I think, Eddie, to your earlier points, we are seeing, and Freeman mentioned this, in the press conference. He said, hey, it's what gets us to the fourth down that's the real problem. But the reality is we're seeing a lack of push in certain situations on fourth down. Now, yesterday, of course, we threw it twice on fourth down. So, Eddie, what were your thoughts on the 2 failed fourth downs?
I have this sneaky suspicion that, I have this sneaky suspicion that they're floundering a little bit, because after the first couple of games, I don't know if you've noticed the last couple of games, but it seems to me that they've really sort of cut back with any design runs for Carr. And I think that's because they sort of realize that they've got a very talented guy back there throwing the ball. They have winnable games on their schedule now. They want to keep him healthy. They want to keep him upright. But that presents an issue because they're basically playing fourth down with 10 guys instead of 11 and a half, like they were with Riley Leonard. He was sort of the straw that stirred the drink on fourth down and made the calls easier, made the execution better, and it also made even broken plays better because he was able to get 2 yards out of nothing often. And when you needed one, that's good enough, right? So I would say that rolling to the right, I've never liked that on a key play because you're unless there's a throwback, which works sometimes, but because it really just sort of crowds a small portion of the field and limits your options unless it's executed perfectly. So I think it's a problem. I think they have to come up with a package that is better thought out, and obviously they have to execute better. And I think that maybe what they're doing is they're trying to figure it out without basically having Carr as a running option. Where I think in big games and type situations that will be back on the table, and that will make us a little bit more dangerous in those areas. But
no question about it. I think the Riley Leonard piece of it was huge for us. Having that, and that's the sort of origins of why we're dabbling with a wildcat formation, because it gives you those numbers, Eddie, that you were talking about, the numerical advantage. We obviously didn't see the wildcat in those situations, and that sprint out does become sort of an all or nothing because you run out of real estate. So what I'd like to see is you referred to, like, okay, let's develop what this package is. I'd love to see a little more finesse plays, or not trick plays per se, but the kind of plays, finesse plays, right? Where you get them going one way and you slip somebody out the other way, or whatever that may be. It's a little bit of deception. And right now what we're trying to do is just, line up and make it happen.
I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch any of the IU game, but I think that's a perfect example of where college football is at right now, because you have to have that option in there where the quarterback's gonna run at some point, because it puts so much pressure on the defense. I thought it was the difference in the game. I thought that kid Mendoza, or whatever his name is, there were some key first downs that he picked up with his legs. And man, that just puts a lot of pressure on the defense. You got to have that as part of your package. So, but I think you could be right though, Ed. Maybe they're just saving it. They don't want to do it against NC State, but you better do it against USC, because that's the nature of the game.
What I'm surprised about is that, in the NFL, there are very, at least until recently, there were very few, quarterbacks that were running options on short yardage situations, right? So what did the NFL do? They ran jumbo packages, right? They had an H-back, or they had a lineman who lined up in the backfield. They ran a power I, or they ran something along those lines. We don't do that. We bring like a receiver in motion who's like a lead blocker into the middle of the line, and that's okay. But I'm really sort of surprised that they haven't come up with a package where they sort of have a bigger back, a lineman, a tight end, that Ty Washington, where they don't line him up as a fullback and run him, through the whole first or something. I mean, I don't know.
They do, but they just bring him out of motion. And
yeah,
then
they bring him out of motion. He gets to the same place. If you saw that.
But when they bring him out of motion, right, he doesn't have that downhill momentum that he would if he was coming out of a 3-point stance and or next to the quarterback. Yeah. They don't run any plays really under center. Yeah. So I think there's room there for improvement. I agree. If they're not going to run Carr, or not use him as a weapon on those situations. So
yeah, and that's what I'm talking about with finesse plays, like hard play action and slip somebody out into a route, or zone read with the quarterback run option, right? That's a little bit of a finesse as well, in that you get people biting one way and you go the other way. So I do want to see an expansion of the short yardage package, and I have confidence we're going to see that. Okay, another key to the game that we said was make them play catch up, get out to a lead, make them play from behind, and take Hollywood Smothers out of it. We did take him out of it, but not necessarily because we got out to a big lead, only 10-7 at halftime. But the reality is, because we put the game away in the third quarter, he only had 12 attempts for the whole game, 46 yards, and he came in averaging 7 yards a carry. He got nothing. So I thought we did a good job of taking away their running game. But it was a little frustrating to only be up 10-7 at halftime.
Yeah,
Eddie.
I thought we did a good job of getting in Bailey's head a little bit. You could see he was a little bewildered at times. And he wasn't as accurate as he has been. He was 74% completion coming in. And he did miss a couple good throws. That one deep ball that he missed, that was a little, he had him open. I mean, he just overthrew the guy.
What'd you
But
think
yeah,
about taking away Hollywood Smothers?
well, awesome. I mean, I 100%. I mean, I couldn't argue with that. Probably one of the better defensive performances for us in that regard. When you knew you had a top quality back like that, that's a top 5 guy running back. But we totally smothered him. I thought it was amazing. If you would have told me that we'd have held him to less than 50 yards, I would have been like, no way.
It's the reason that this football team is trending the way that it is because
Yeah.
for the second week in a row, we've had an offense that's taken a while to get its footing, and our defense has held the line while while that's going on.
Yep.
And that just did not happen in the first 2 games, and really didn't happen against Purdue if you really want to look at it. So it's a huge area of growth where we're able to force 3 and outs, get pressure on the quarterback, limit a good running back to whatever 3 or 4 yards a carry. These are big strides on defense that permits CJ Carr to take a quarter and a half, or permits us to mangle a 4th and short, or mangle a red zone possession. You can't afford those mistakes if you're basically trading scores, or if the defense is on the field a lot. So I think the reason that this season is alive and well is because of, and give Chris Ash credit and the defense, is because of the progress they've made. I think we all could have expected the offense to get to this point.
Yeah, and that was the 5th key to the game. Bram, you were saying, hey, the D's got to show up again and make those doubters believe that the improvement wasn't real. Well, I think we could say that improvement is real. 3 turnovers, 4 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. It's real.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. I mean, there's a lot of things trending on Twitter these days, but one of them that isn't is fire Chris Ash. I mean, it's only been a few games where people were throwing their hands up, and you look at the improvement of this team, and holy cow, man, have they come a long way. And it's not only that, but their level of confidence, just it's you can see it with the eye test. I mean, Bowen is just really anticipating well. I thought he had a great game yesterday. Tay Johnson is, man, I'll tell you, that's a guy that's not talked about enough. I mean, that's a supreme athlete back there. He's really playing well. And Traore, I just thought was amazing. I mean, man, did he look like an animal out there. I'd like to see Young get in there a little bit, but boy, is he playing at a high level right now. So the defense was, I thought, unbelievable, just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. You mentioned the whole Chris Ash overreaction piece, and the media in the press conference after the game. I mean, most of the conversation was about, so how do you explain this, Marcus? What did you change, or what was the moment when the defense got better? And he's almost getting frustrated. Like, everybody wants to look for, we did this thing. And he keeps coming back to the process, like consistency with what you practice and how you practice. And it's not glamorous, but it's the truth. Like the improvement is because they've stuck with the process.
Well, they did implement tackling Tuesdays or whatever that was, whatever that comment was. But
fundamental.
Clearly they've been doing something well, because everybody is seeing it with their own eyes that there's major improvement with this.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last key to the game we said was, create doubt in NC State and don't let them hang around. Well, we did let them hang around with some sloppy play that we've talked about. But obviously we avoided that trap with just a tremendous third quarter that put the game away. So great second half for the Irish overall, 4 great wins in a row. All right, so let's just cover, if there's any areas we haven't covered, let's go to that now. Eddie, give me something that you liked and something you didn't like about the performance yesterday.
We've covered a lot. I think CJ Carr's throwing deeper balls a little bit better. He had, and I really love sort of that mid-range sort of drag across the middle, find those spaces passing game. Like, sometimes in the past, what we've had is we've had a dink dunk bomb passing game, like and nothing in between. So to me, getting Reardon involved that way for really the first time this year, making him a primary down the field target was I love that. I mean, Notre Dame is tight end Hugh. I've always my favorite player of all time was Dave Casper. Bavaro, all these guys, to see them operating in the middle of the field, dragging guys with them, just basically being matched up with a safety or a linebacker that's 6 inches shorter. That's really fun to watch. So I really like that. For a dislike, there wasn't. I think we've really covered the things that we didn't like, and I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with. I don't know what the status is of Jagasa, or when he's slated to come back. And did Rubio play yesterday? I didn't see.
I didn't see Rubio. Him.
Yeah. So I'm kind of worried.
Interesting.
From what I saw from USC last night, I think getting some pressure on the quarterback is going to be critical, because we cannot leave our guys on islands for too long. Even Leonard Moore. We can hang with them for 5 seconds, but we can't give him 7, 8, 9 seconds back there to run around and make a play, because that will be our undoing if we do that.
Yeah. I thought we kind of covered most everything. I mean, I will say just in general, look, every single year is different. It's a different team. This is not the same team on the field as last year. And so this team has to go through certain steps to grow as a team. And I thought what was nice about yesterday is they went in 10-7 at halftime. That game was totally in doubt. And whatever Freeman said, it resonated at halftime, because we came out and just took over the game. And I mean, that to see that level of perfection in the second half when things mattered, it's 10-7. This could go anyway. And then we just came out and executed at a really high level. That to me is a very positive sign, because it says a lot about the psyche of this football team.
Yeah. I'll give you one. I like that the defense didn't allow a red zone possession. NC State never had the ball in the red zone. They had a big touchdown pass. So I love that. I mean, that's one of those ways that, how do you define defensive domination? Okay, there's one, right? They didn't even get into the red zone. What I didn't like was we had 3 empty possessions in the red zone. Like we talked about the 2 fourth down. And then, Jadarian Price, love him to death. But he's put the ball on the ground twice now this year.
That is twice,
Right. So I didn't like that. I liked Noah Burnett going 2 for 2 on field goals. I didn't like that we didn't give him a chance earlier in the game.
Yeah, 2 times, that 6 points.
Right, right. Sometimes against SC or others, we're going to have to get the points. So.
Yep.
And I'll give you one more. We'll close with one more. Eddie, you said Eli Reardon. Yeah, love it. I love him with 7 catches. I didn't like Malachi Fields only getting 1. Sometimes I feel like, man, why don't we throw it to Malachi Fields every time? He's such a weapon. But to some extent, I imagine NC State was taking him away. And, we found other solutions.
To follow up on that, we targeted him a couple times. And if we've seen a little bit of a weakness with Carr, those quick slants over the middle, he seems to throw them too hard.
And even high a little bit. He's been high a lot.
Right. He's been high and outside. Sorry, Cub fans. But he's been those have been, for whatever reason, those have been a throw that he hasn't made, consistently to the big receivers, right? He's made the bubble throws well. He's made the little outs to the slot receivers well. But those Fields and Reardon sort of coming just a quick slant over the middle, he's missed them. And so they got to clean that up.
Yep. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. You've been listening to Dome and Domer, the oldest ND sports podcast on the planet. Be sure to like and subscribe to Dome and Domer wherever you get your podcasts. For Ed Jordanik and Mike Brammer, I'm Mike Sullivan. We'll see you next time on Dome and Domer.